Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Gulag Café. Last week, the power of God prevented me from being able to stream. A powerful electric storm came through the area and damaged some critical infrastructure, so I did not get power or internet back until the stream would have been over. So we are back to talk about should we fear Iran or not this week. And Chris and I both have some different things to say about that. Obviously, the answer we all know is no, we shouldn't really care. But we're going to talk about why. We're going to share some things with you. And most importantly, I am feeling really low speed this week because for the last 2 weeks, it has been so miserably hot and humid, I can barely think. I haven't been sleeping well. And the air conditioner, both here at my husband's house and over at my mother's house, has been on the fritz because it's just so damn humid and hot that it gets overworked. And we've had various kinds of complications with the airflow and the fans and stuff. So it's just been a really hot, muggy, miserable 2 weeks. So I'm not feeling very great tonight, but the show must go on. And I don't want this topic to simmer any longer. I wanted to cover it last week when it was fresher, but that just wasn't in the cards. So, Mr. Chris, is there anything you'd like to say as an introduction before we get started tonight?
Welcome, Tovarishi, to another excellent episode of the Gulag Café. Commissar Yiz, of course, say Storm, but actual truth, she was in classical liberal re-education camp in preparatory for becoming full-fledged communist Blavatsky. Apparently, transformation is going extremely well. We have increased her bug rations as thank you from overbearing state. Tonight we will be talking obviously about friends of Islam, but not being liked by communist Iran. Famously, of course, during Iranian Revolution, communists were supposed to take control, but Islamist snakes did sell us out at the last minute. We spent all this time destabilizing society so we could have glorious communist revolution, and Islamists at last moment stole from us. So, of course, we are very much in favor of current war with Iran. We have tonight for you an excellent souffle, no eggs, of course, of geopolitical strategy and other questions. Please do enjoy, pull up chart log. Please do avoid genuine sort of London wildlife. Do not say anything racist. You will be dragged off. And please do enjoy tonight's Gulag Cafe.
But it's always acceptable to spit at white people and Christians, always.
Of course, Tovarici. We hate the Christians most of all, of course.
All right. Well, uh, before we talk about geopolitical stuff, which Chris is going to cover later, there are a few points that I want to go over. The primary thing that I wanted to resonate with the viewers is why you shouldn't be too concerned about Iran as a country and why you shouldn't be worried about Islam over there when Islam here is a worse problem. And I wanted to sort of put in your heads ideas and talking points that are kind of easy and comfortable to talk about with people who might want to have these conversations with you. So, just like when I was really angry at Zionists, and I prefaced the stream quite fiery a couple of weeks ago, tonight, again, when I talk about the Jews or Israel or Zionists or whatever, I'm not talking about regular Jewy P. McJewerton that lives down the street who just wants to send his kid to the best shul and isn't involved in any of this geopolitical or banking or war machine stuff. I'm not talking about a Hasid that lives in New York and just wants to do weird ritual shit and be left alone. When we talk about Zionist Israel, that kind of Jews, I'm talking about ADL, Satan Yahoo, all of the Zionist wackadoos, whether Jewish or not, in our government, in our media, in banking, that are behind this ugly, evil machine of, spilling European blood for Israel and forever wars. These Zionist pigs that actually look at quite literally the goyim, meaning everyone who isn't a Jew and thinks that they're lesser people. There's a lot of really ugly Talmudic evil in our countries, not just in Israel. And I hate all of that stuff. And so when I talk about Zionists and Israel and Jews and stuff in whatever I might say tonight, obviously I'm talking about those people and not regular. It's always hashtag not all. I just have to say that as CYA material. So The first thing I want to go over tonight, on going with that speaking point I just said, is international Judaism, Zionism, etc. Uh, a lot of people like Chris made the phrase, as far as I'm aware of, "There's Jews in my shoes." People, the people that think Jews are literally behind absolutely everything and always everything bad.
They
Like,
are the reason my spoons keep going missing.
right. It's
Actually,
like
there's Jews in my spoons.
right. I'm
As a
I'm
matter of
not
fact.
like that, but it is worth pointing out that despite the overrepresentation and undue influence that this particular faction, the Jews, the Israelis, the Zionists, whatever you want to call them, uh, they are the most powerful client group because of how our civilization works with this fake sham of democracy, fiat currency, central banking, military soft power pressures, those kinds of things. Client groups are the ones that get attention, not the host population, not the everyman of the original populations of the states that this bureaucratic managerialism has taken over. Because of the immense influence that Jewish money has had since the dawn of central banking and fiat currency, going all the way back to the Rothschilds in the 1800s, this has given anyone who wants to put their lot in with that particular kind of Jewry an immense bargaining chip in how this entire machine works. The predatory tactics of usury have been applied not just by the Jews, but all of these rotten curs that lead us today. Whether it's Jewish or not, we all live in this usury financial enslavement web of entanglement. And it just so happens that very rich Jews and influential Zionists are kind of the most beneficiary client group of all of this. And so, since World War I and World War II, this has essentially given the Jews, again, see the earlier thing, an effective blank check of influence money in the Western world. And speaking of World War II, like we've talked about many times, central banking is absolutely critical to the modern war machine of this technocratic bureaucracy that we live in. If a client group is unduly influential in this critical part of the entire machine, then obviously they will have undue levels of power within that machine. However, I don't think that the machine itself is Jewish and Zionist. I think the machine itself is based on post Nuremberg military hegemonic control of as much of the planet as it can. When you look at the Pentagon, military industrial complex, the various deep state clusters of cronies and warmongers and things, even illicit arms dealers around the world, they're all directly connected to the United States war machine. Military intelligence is not just Mossad and Jews, it's a lot of other people too. They don't, and remember, the Jews don't have a singular influence over our governments. They just have undue influence as the richest, most influential client group. While it's safe to say that many people at the upper echelon of the U.S. machine are probably Zionists, and of course, obviously, those of you who know what to look for know there are plenty of Jews themselves, but the machine is one of global empire. It tolerates the aggressively annoying Jewish parts like the ADL and shit like that. And it also tolerates the loudmouth Zionist people like your Satan Yahoos and people like that because Israel serves a purpose, and the loudmouth Zionism and all this Jewish stuff on the right is a very important metric and shit test among the allowed right, the containment right, which they have to have for this sham of democracy, right? So, anyway, by using Israel as a tool of endless war machine propaganda and as a literal wedge of actual war in the Middle East, it's an undying reminder of World War II mythology at home. Remember, the moral order, the anti-white moral order, is the moral order of what we all live under, and it serves the purpose of forever wars. And there's always the danger of, oh, another Islamic attack. So both our government and the wackadoo Zionists always have this looming moral excuse to false flag anywhere and everywhere they want on our soil. So those are things to keep in mind. So anything you want to say about that, Chris, before I move on to my other points I have prepared?
No, that seems like a pretty good summary.
All right. So, in regards to should we consider Iran an actual threat or radical Islam a threat, I have three things here. If we're told that having nuclear fissile materials is dangerous and bad because it will lead to nuclear weapons by the International Nuclear Commission thing, then why didn't we bomb the shit out of India or aggressively invade India or China or Pakistan in the last 30 years? Because they've had developing nuclear science for at least that long, if not longer. If we're told that WMDs are dangerous when violent, vengeful, or extreme religious groups have them, then why is that only applied to Iran or Iraq 20 years ago? Because Muslim countries that are not Pakistan, that are not India, because remember, India has a lot of Muslims in it. Israel, of course, has Muslims in it. And while not Muslim, one could even say North Korea is kind of a godless religious state, right? It's a super authoritarian, whatever you want to call it. I don't know, commie fash, whatever you want to call it. These things represent the kind of danger that we are told radical Islam leads to, right? And that's why, well, we have to fight them over there so we don't have to fight them over here. Well, that brings me to my third point. They are over here. Especially those of you who might live in jolly old England know. We have been overran with Islam ideology and Islamic people of different ethnic backgrounds. Our cities are just chock-a-block with them, especially ones that have been entirely white erased, like Birmingham and other places in England. If our leadership actually did want to fight against what they tell us the threat is of Iran having nukes, they would start on our own goddamn soil. If they really thought that radical Islam was a threat, they would start getting rid of Islam here at home, wouldn't they? They wouldn't preach all of this tolerance and acceptance anti-white bullshit here. They would say, "Oh, well, if radical Islam really is a problem, why are we letting hundreds, if not thousands, of mosques be built here? Why are we allowing millions of people who are Muslim, who hate white people, who hate Christians, who hate Jews, moving into our places?" And remember, a lot of these Muslim ethnic groups, they hate each other too. And they bring their ethnic conflicts and forever warfare at home into the cities where they're being mass imported in London, in Paris, in New York City, into our countries. And if our governments, if the military industrial complex, the American machine, if it was really serious about that shit being a threat to us, they wouldn't be importing it in mass and they wouldn't be allowing it to fester where their capital cities are. So this is why it's demonstrably a lie when the machine tells you we have to care about Iran because Iran is the big threat because of radical Islam. They are lying to you because of demonstrable facts, and you can bring up all the things that I said in the first 10 minutes of this stream as an easy way to refute that. So, Chris, what do you think about all that? Do you think I'm right about these points? What do you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I wouldn't say that the entirety of Iran is radical Islam, right?
It certainly isn't.
Um,
No, like
because
there's a lot of really
the
relatable Iranian people. Yeah, for
we're,
sure.
we are increasingly seeing a dynamic where people in actual Muslim countries like Saudi Arabia and Qatar, for
Mhm.
example, are saying, don't send your kids to get educated in the UK. They'll come back crazy radicalized, right? The strain of Islam that we have in the UK, mainly Deobandi, which is like a sort of like weird kind of like resentful offshoot from Pakistan, is actually much more extreme than sort of general Islam. A lot of Islam is just really quite quiescent, right? But you know, when it's needed to get a war going, of course. Look, the reason why Iran is seen as radical is that they really don't like Israel. And I've got a whole sort of presentation on where this is likely to go, the Iran Israel thing. I think radical Islam is something definitely to be afraid of. And but again, as you're pointing out, it's only sort of as bad really as the government lets it get. The fundamental problem is that liberal societies just don't really know how to deal with it, right? Like this sort of the widening of freedom of religion, which I think was originally widened so that it would include sort of weird forms of Christianity and also Judaism, has now basically rendered itself defenseless. You see this in sort of like the very
Yeah.
weird kind of progressive forms of Christianity, right? They don't want to be sort of too strident in their belief, so they wind up with this sort of like UN ecumenist, like, you know, we're all worshiping the
Yeah.
same God kind of thing. Well, no, we're not. I just refute that entirely,
Yeah.
right? Prove to me that we are all worshiping the same God. Oh, well, you can't prove that. Then why the fuck are you asserting it, right? People are asserting it because they fundamentally believe that you can get rid of war if you sort of, you know, erase differences between everyone. But it doesn't work that way, right? It just doesn't. The facts on
Yeah.
the ground just do not align with that, right? No matter how much you brainwash people, there will always be differences between groups. And honestly, I think if history has taught us anything, I mean, you know, if you talk about India and Pakistan, right? So India and Pakistan were partitioned so that the Muslims and the Hindus would stop fighting each other, right? They gave them like separate places to be, but that never applies to whites and anyone else, right? You
Right.
know, like like, I mean, this is the weird thing about the British, right? The British are absolutely famous for partitioning countries so
Yep.
that ethnic and religious groups would not constantly be on top of each other, so there wouldn't be war. But when it comes to England, oh yeah, just like everyone live on top of each other. What's the worst that can possibly happen? Well, of course, we're seeing it right now, basically. So
Before I speak on religious stuff, which I do want to do, just a reminder, during the course of the stream, if there's anything you guys would like to say to us about the topic or ask us about the topic, we're not waiting till the end to receive paid messages. You can send short messages on Cash App and PayPal. You can send paid chats over on Entropy and hyper chats on Odyssey, of course. And I forgot to say so at the first of the stream, but Chris and I split the proceeds of this stream 50-50. So any money that you donate on this stream goes to each of us. So the first thing we have in tonight is from our good friend Don Browning in chat. Don sends us, what does that say? Oh, I don't know if I know what that word means, but she sends us $10 like always. Thank you very much, Dawn, with two trophies and two white hearts, and says na Zdrovi. That might be a Russian joke.
Nazdarovsky. Wait,
No, no,
Nazdarovsky. Yeah, it's
Nazdrovsky.
something. I
It's
think it's hello in
probably something
Russian.
you say, or that I don't know Russian. Sorry, not even joke Russian. I'm sorry, Dawn, but thank you very much for financially supporting us. It does mean a lot. Let me make sure I'm not missing out on anyone else. I do have a new subscriber on Subscribestar, but it's just an alphanumeric username, so I don't know how to credit you for that. But thank you for subscribing over on Subscribestar. That happened earlier this week or last week. Let's see, nothing else, no hyper chats yet. So let me go to what I wanted to say about religion. Talking about a division of religion helping with peace, right? When you hear the phrase radical Islam, it paints this thing in your mind about people cutting off heads, terrorism, that kind of thing. But we don't have radical Judaism in our zeitgeist. We don't have radical Christianity in our zeitgeist, because those things are summed up with Judeo-Christian. Judeo-Christian is an extreme religion in a way, because it's the war machine religion of this horrible machine that we talk about. The radical Islam is, if it has a duality, it's what Satan Yahu's doing in Israel. It's what we've seen them do to Gaza. It's the machine sacrificing white lives on the altar of diversity and calling it progress and something good. This Judeo-Christian satanic evil religion is a religion of extremes, but it's a religion pitched to us so heavily steeped in the propaganda we all grow up in. Most of us can't see the forest for the trees about how extreme and ugly and violent and evil it is. So that's another thing that you can bring up if religion comes into the conversation, is that if we're told there's radical Islam, why aren't we told there's radical Judaism? Why aren't we told about the Talmudic extremists that really do think that it is acceptable or even just to financially enslave and use or even kill non-Jews in the pursuit of making heaven on earth for God's chosen people? Why are we not told that It's extreme in the United States for Christians to be force fed an ideology that tells their children God wants them to die for a people who aren't even part of their civilization. This is very extreme, and one could even say a radical when it comes to religious beliefs. And so, radical Judaism, radical Christianity, radical Islam. The radical side of the Judaism and the Christianity part is this Judeo-Christian horseshit that we get fed all the time. But again, obviously the machine's not going to couch it that way because it wants you to drink your Kool-Aid and do what you're told. So that's my take on the religious angle of it. And I agree with Chris what he said about dividing people. Like it never is even an option on the table for white people to say, our country used to be a lot better when it was just us and when we were just, regular Christians without this evangelical psycho Judeo Christian stuff. Can we just, like portion off a big part of our land and just have that here? No, of course not. And in several of our countries now, you would probably go to prison if you wanted if you tried to make that happen. That would probably happen in England right now, wouldn't it, Chris? Like if you said
Oh
this
yeah.
entire, like
Oh
we're
yeah,
going to
no,
make
no,
this
no, no.
area for, like,
That shit is so illegal, right? Like, if you want a Muslim enclave or a black enclave or a Hindu enclave or a Sikh enclave, any kind of like enclave or charity,
mm-hmm.
fill your boots. If you want to do it for whites or Christians, no, the Charities Commission will be up your ass very, very, very quickly.
You might get a knock at the door, right?
yeah. Well, it could be seen as a little bit racist, Yeah.
It's a bit insensitive. All right. Well, Shade Master, good old Shade Master. How you doing there, Carnal? For $3 over on Entropy, he says the Christian solution to grooming gangs is the biblical prescription found in the last 3 chapters of the Book of Judges. It's a good read. I cannot recall what is in Judges. It's been a very, very long time since I read Old Testament, but thank you very much.
Right. Shall we get on to my, like, this is going to be a bit of a weird dislocatey kind of like stream.
That's fine. Like I didn't have a lot to cover. I thought it might lead to some fun conversation between us in the chat. Like if there's nothing that you want to say to the points and things I brought up, we can just go to the things that you have prepared, talking about general geopolitics and stuff and why we shouldn't really fear Iran.
Okay, in Smollen, shall we?
We shall in Smollen.
Right. So, this is Iran. Looks scary, doesn't it? Look at all of those mountains just sitting there. Who knows what they are up to? There could be stuff inside those mountains. Now, one of the things about Iran that you will notice from this sort of this topographical map is that it is basically a sort of massive mountain fortress. It has sort of like been this way like for ages. It has a lot to do with sort of the Iranian state of mind. Right. So just a little bit of geopolitics for everyone watching. This is the Middle East generally. Now, there's something that is not quite often appreciated, which is that the sort of northern part of, well, the sort of the whole Middle East is the confluence of 4 different, or 5 really, different oceans, right? Whoever controls this part of the world has incredible influence over world trade. Not quite so much, like, with the US sort of being its own thing. But if you cannot go, for example, through the Suez Canal at the top of the Red Sea and into the Mediterranean and, out onto the Mediterranean here, you have to go around the bottom of Africa, which is a real pain in the ass. Now, Iran, of course, sits astride the Caspian Sea here and the Persian Gulf here. A lot of oil and gas is in this region, like just a shitload. As you can see here, the Persian Gulf to the right has an incredible amount of oil infrastructure, pipelines crisscross the just entire area. He who controls this area has considerable influence. And let us not forget that just above all of this area is Ukraine, Slava Ukraini, right?
Slava Ukraine.
Slava Ukraine, right?
Ukraine. It's
Georgia
just across
here.
the Black Sea, right?
Yep. Georgia here to the south of Russia.
Oh,
Now,
I see it. Yeah, right there.
it has been said for a while by sort of observant people that the next big war would be about the Caspian Sea, right? This general sort of section. And I don't think it is a coincidence that at the same time stuff is kicking off there, it is also kicking off down here. On a completely unrelated note, this is the largest expansion of the Babylonian Empire in 600 BC. Observant viewers may notice that it also covered this exact same area. Observant viewers may also notice that Greater Israel and Kurdistan. So these are maps supposedly about basically sort of like, what Israel wants, right? Greater Israel, of course, would have the entirety of the head of the Red Sea, the Suez Canal, would extend to the top of the Persian Gulf. Kurdistan would stretch all the way from the Black Sea down to the eastern part of the Persian Gulf. And on the right of the map, sort of cut off, is Baluchistan. And the reason why it's got that weird little sort of extension there is because of a place called Gwadar. Now, here you see Pakistan, right? Well, let me zoom in a bit, right? Sar, this is Pakistan.
Please in big and map, sir.
Please in big and map. And this right here is China. This is called the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, and it is a bunch of roads and railways and probably pipelines soon that connect China with the port of Gwadar. Where the fuck is it on the map? Gwadar, here it is. Gwadar. Now, the thing about Gwadar is that it is part of Baluchistan. Where's the bloody... Right. So, if we notice this is the ethnic map of Iran. Very, very good map. This, I got it from the Jerusalem Times.
This is an interesting map.
Yeah, it is a very, very interesting map. Now, as you can see, Iran has a bunch of different ethnicities. You've got the Kurds in the northwest and also in the northeast. They are Sunni. The central Iran, the Persian part of Iran, is in the center, and they are Shia. You also have other Sunni groups around here, and then you get down to Baluchistan, which is here. Again, they are Sunni, and Baluchistan straddles the border of Pakistan and the sort of tip of Iran. Sort of basically this part here, right? Now, what is going to happen now that the 12-day war has ended? Well, obviously the Israelis are going to go, well, we're going to go home. We're not going to like try anything else. You know what I mean, right? Like, who wants war?
Right.
No, of course they're not, right? They are going to try for regime change in order to get the Greater Israel. But it's important to understand the prize that everyone is going for, particularly the Israelis. They want control of this sea nexus, essentially, right? Traditionally, anyone who has managed to control this entire area has managed to extract great wealth and great power. Now, the easiest way to do this in terms of destabilizing Iran is probably to get the restive ethnic populations to rebel. So I've got a little bit of prepared stuff here.
Okay,
So,
here
based
we go.
upon the recent statements of Ted Cruz, it is now becoming crystal clear that Israel and the US, who are practically a co-joined entity at this point, are planning a campaign of destabilization warfare against Iran using border proxy groups. When Ted Cruz talks about a popular uprising in Iran, I very much doubt he is thinking of the average Iranian citizen. He is much more likely thinking of the cohesive and restive ethnic groups on the borders of Iran, such as the Iraqi Kurds on the northwest border with Iraq and the Baluchi on the southeast border with Pakistan. Both the Baluch and the Kurds are Sunni, in contrast with the Persians in the center of the country who are Shia. Both Al Qaeda and ISIS are Sunni groups with a focus on killing Shia Muslims. I've already seen suggestions in the Jerusalem Times that such groups should be offered security guarantees, quote, which is probably a code for arms, air support, and diplomatic and security cover if they declare themselves to be independent countries or statelets, basically. This would essentially be the perfect proxy war. Talk about freedom for the Kurds and the Baluchis when they begin fighting the Iranian army, accuse the Iranians of killing their own citizens, get a good civil war going. Either way, Israel wins. They get more dead Iranians, a more destabilized country in which to install the new Shah, and they get to crow about democracy while they are doing it. I suspect we will suddenly discover that both the Kurds and the Baluchi are very progressive in their views about women and probably gays, and they love democracy. In fact, the PKK, which is the Kurdish military, has had female soldiers for a while, so progressive. So this should be an easy sell. Contrast these plucky lads and lasses fighting for their freedom against the evil Iranian government. They just want a country of their own. So why can't we have one? Oh well, that'd be racist, right? But when the Kurds want a country of their own, that's perfectly proper. At the same time, it is likely that the ISIS fighters in Syria would be released now that Syria has a new government who is ex-Al Qaeda, herded into groups and then shuffled into Iran to use against Iranian civilians in the border areas. ISIS have been in the north of Syria for some time now and would probably make great mountain fighters since much of Iran is similar terrain. ISIS therefore could be used for a whole number of purposes: civilian terror, destabilization, lowering the security climate to decrease government legitimacy, shipping arms, committing atrocities that you could then blame on the Iranians, and also finally as a justification to send in troops or take administrative control of, quote, lawless areas that, of course, you had a hand in making lawless. At the same time as ISIS being in the northwest, in the Kurdish parts, there is also a Baluchi version of ISIS known as ISIS-K. If you guys remember ISIS-K, the Americans have a tendency to trot it out every so often, be like, ISIS-K. Well, in case you're wondering, ISIS-K comes from Baluchistan, although they do also attack the Baluchis, and it's widely believed that Pakistan is behind them. I think it's probably more likely the Israelis and or the Americans are behind them, but
I mean, it's which is very often the case everywhere around the world.
Yep,
It's
yep.
Mossad and CIA backed just to cause destabilization.
ISIS-K has been fighting the Baluch separatists in the southeast. The Baluchis have wanted their own country for a while now, but also attacking Chinese infrastructure for the China-Pakistan economic corridor. However, there was a recent meeting between ISIS in Syria and ISIS-K where they basically said that they were going to meet up. So why is Baluchistan important? Well, apart from being its own Sunni ethnic group with secessionist ambitions, Baluchistan straddles parts of Iran, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. On the Pakistani side, it contains the port of Gwadar, which is the endpoint of the China-Pakistan economic corridor and a way for China to ship exports without having to use the Straits of Malacca. The Straits of Malacca, for God's sake. The Straits of Malacca are how China usually ships its stuff. China has to go to the east, down here, and come around through this island chain. The Straits of Malacca, I believe, are here. But basically, in order to sort of get out to the east, they have to go through a whole bunch of islands. And a lot of these islands are controlled by the West: Singapore, Indonesia, Brunei, Philippines,
Mhm.
etc., etc. Right? So this would give China a way to ship product out from Guadar on the Gulf of Oman and avoid all of that stuff altogether. Which would be something that the Americans would want to counter.
Yeah,
By the
for
way, since
sure.
they have put a
Yeah.
ton of effort into controlling these Straits of Malacca in order to nerf sort of Chinese ambitions. Now let's see where we're going here. Both Pakistan and China will be pissed off if the Baluchis declare independence. Pakistan could lose a sizable chunk of territory with ocean access, and China would lose the endpoint of the economic corridor on the Arabian Sea. At the same time as all this destabilization is going on, there is, of course, an Israeli-led government waiting to step in, headed by Reza Pahlavi, the son of the previous Shah of Iran, who was also installed by the West after the overthrow of Mohammad Mossadegh in 1953, which, by the way, is one of the reasons why the Iranians are not too keen on the West, right? It's not like the Iranians, generally speaking, woke up one day and they're like, we hate America because, you know, they've got French fries and bikinis and football. No, they're pissed at the West because of the incredible amount of meddling the West has done in Iran. It's literally their history. There's just
Yeah.
so much of it, right? So, you know, don't be like,
Despite there being truth that Islam does not brook other religions, that is true. So they don't like us because we harbor Jews. They don't like us because we're Christian. Those things are true. But like Chris is saying, because of the constant meddling, it's known. It's not like a secret. Like they hate the West because of how much we've screwed with them and that whole region for so long.
yeah, indeed, you could make a plausible case that Iran was the first modern color revolution
Yeah.
in 1953. According to the CIA's declassified documents, some of the most feared mobsters in Tehran were hired by the CIA to stage pro-Shah riots on the 19th of August. Other men paid by the CIA were brought into Tehran on buses and trucks and took over the streets of the city. So before Antifa was properly Antifa, they were doing this crap, all over the world, right? Now, the current plan that America and Israel is trying to get off the ground is known as Abraham Shield, which would be an extension of the Abraham Accords, which is supposed to normalize relations between Israel and Saudi Arabia and include Egypt, Sudan, and Morocco, as well as Kyrgyzstan and the UAE. Now, you will notice something about all of these countries. For example, you might be like, well, why is Sudan important? Well, Sudan is important because it controls on its east coast a large chunk of the Red Sea. Morocco is important because it controls the southern part of the oh my god, why do I keep
It's
blanking
it's
on the name? It used to be called the Pillars of Hercules. It's called
it's the
something else
Strait of
now.
Gibraltar, right?
Thank you. Oh god,
I think
Strait
that's
of
what that. I'm
Gibraltar.
pretty sure that's what that is.
Yeah, right. Um Egypt, of course, controls the head of the Red Sea and the Suez Canal. Kyrgyzstan sits right in the middle of Iran, Iraq, Syria, and Turkey. The black countries are the ones marked for regime change. How did that war in Iraq go? I thought democracy was supposed to flower. I thought we would be welcomed as liberators, bros. Gee, that didn't last very long. Syria and Turkey are also marked for governmental change, as is the Houthi controlled part of Yemen and possibly Qatar. The explanation being that they, quote, support the Muslim Brotherhood. Of course, the main issue, as always, is normalization with Israel, which I presume means banking access, acceptance of usury, and all this kind of like other stuff. Now, this is Netanyahu at the UN in when is this? 2025. Okay, so this is quite recent, right? So this is Netanyahu basically saying that, you know, the curse is Syria, Iraq, and Iran being controlled by radical Islam. The blessing, right, would be, you know, Saudi Arabia, sort of unrestricted trade up the Persian Gulf across Saudi Arabia and out into Europe,
Howdy,
presumably
Saudis.
using how do Saudis,
Howdy,
um,
Saudis.
presumably with Israel getting a considerable cut. Now, there is something to be said for economic development in the area. I'm just, you know, I'm just quite suspicious of Israel's motives. I will be frank about this.
Yeah,
They do have that tendency to say one thing and do another and frame things in terms of, oh, it's going to be good for everyone, but
yeah.
they don't really care about everyone. They care about themselves. They just couch it in this way because it sounds bad if they're like, well,
I'm
it'll be good for us.
I'm always immediately dubious of anything that foreign leaders and foreign media have that's in English. I'm always dubious of it because that's made for our ears. So I'm always skeptical anyway, let alone somebody like Satan Yahoo. We know not to trust that evil anti-white pig.
Yeah. Okay, so right. So what's happening next? Well, the US State Department has approved a $510 million emergency sale of ammunition to Israel,
Of course.
um, which are basically about 7,000 JDAM kits for the 2,500-pound airdropped bombs. Now, what do you notice about this arms order? It's not missiles, it's for plane dropped bombs.
Yeah.
At the moment, the Iranians have a very, very poor air defense. They are currently in talks with either China or Russia in order to get an air defense umbrella. However, this is a complicated thing because both China and Russia are basically telling Iran that they should re-engage with the International Atomic Energy Agency, give up their sort of like nuclear, their sort of uranium enrichment goals, and sort of become sort of more integrated part of BRICS and the sort of like Asian, Eurasian superpowers. The Iranians have a tendency to be like very, very independent. They're like, no, we just, you know, we want to do it by ourselves. They're a bit like North Korea in that sense. I've seen some very sort of competent political analysts basically saying, no, like what Iran really needs to do is they've got to like mesh in with China and Russia. They may lose some of their independence, but they will be much safer. As to how this is going to play out, I don't really know. Israel did quite badly out of this war.
Yeah.
It's not like the Iranians won by a slam dunk, but it's a bit like one of those boxing matches where somebody wins on points. From the point of view of Iran, all they really had to do is hold their own and sort of, you know, bloody Israel's nose, right? Israel, of course, being backed by the United States and protected by Iron Dome, was considered in popular wisdom to be untouchable. Well, they have indeed been touched. So this counts as a W for Iran, even though Iran suffered quite serious damage as a result, and have now, they basically had their air force like just annihilated, which is why they're shopping for a new air force at the moment. But for Israel, they suffered a lot of damage, and also, I imagine, a lot of psychological damage because the government was basically saying, look, we've got this impenetrable shield. There's nothing, you know, they can do. We can run around and basically do whatever the hell we want. What are you going to do? We've got the Iron Dome and we've got the Americans. You know, we've got everyone, right? Pictures are now beginning to filter out that there has been quite serious damage in Tel Aviv, particularly right in the center in the financial district. Apparently, 480 buildings have been damaged, many of them badly. There are apparently in total about 330,000.
33,000.
33,000, pardon me, insurance claims, although again, it is Israel, so I don't know how many of those, unfortunately. You know,
Oi,
but
what are you trying to say?
it must be weird being the Israeli government, right?
Oh, I know.
I presume they check this kind of stuff very, very thoroughly, because they'll be like, you're not
The,
gonna put best one over us.
my half
Save it for
my half Jewish Michelin friend who has family who lives in Israel, he explained to me that Israel can be explained as follows: Jews, Jew and Jews, Jew and Jews. He said that's how it all works, and it's all miserable.
Yep, yep. So this was a bloody nose. Given what I know of the Israeli national character, and particularly of sort of Netanyahu and these sort of far right Temple Institute, Chabad apocalyptic types that he hangs with, and their sort of belief in religious war, they are definitely going to be back for seconds. So this is only a lull in the fighting, during which Iran has a sort of narrow window to get air defense, get security guarantees from Iran and China before this whole thing breaks out again, which it is absolutely going to. We've just got like a brief reprieve at the moment. Yiz, can you play this video?
I can.
This is the kind of Israeli propaganda that's going around at the moment, which supports my theory that the Israelis are definitely going to be back for seconds.
Yeah, give me just a second to embiggen, and we will fire it up. There we go. We will add this to stage. There it is. All right. Playing the whole clip. It's 1:42. Here we go.
الشعب اليهودي لديه
Oh, that's very loud.
لكنه أيضا ينظر إلى المستقبل. هل رأيتم ما حدث لحماس؟ هل رأيتم ما حدث في سوريا؟ هل ترون ما يحدث لحزب الله؟ حتى أن الآن حكومة الشر في إيران تفهم من يهدد إسرائيل يدفع ثمنا باهظا. وهذه هي فقط البداية. كل من رفع يده على إسرائيل دفع ثمنا، وكل من يجرؤ على فعل ذلك في المستقبل سيتم تدميره. للدولة الإسرائيلية شيء أكثر أهمية من كل سلاح وتكنولوجيا. الله، لقد كان مع شعب إسرائيل منذ خروجهم من مصر وحتى اليوم لأكثر من 3000 سنة من حاول استعباد أو إذلال أو تدمير شعب إسرائيل. محية من التاريخ، من فرعون في مصر إلى هامان في فارس، ومن نبوخذ-نصر إلى السنوار الخميني ونصر الله، لا يتعاملون مع أبناء الشعب المختار. لكن الحرب ليست مصيركم، المستقبل لديكم يمكن أن يبدو مختلفا. انظروا حولكم، ليست إسرائيل من دمرت بلدكم، بل هؤلاء الذين وعدوكم بالمقاومة، وبدلا من ذلك جلبوا لكم فقط القمع والفقر واليأس. لا يمكن تغيير الماضي، ولكن يمكن بناء المستقبل معا. هذا هو خياركم، حياة أم حرب، أمل أم دمار، المستقبل في أيديكم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته لمحبي إسرائيل.
You can cut it here. Yeah, right.
Right. So
it's the most Jewish thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we totally destroyed all of those countries. Right. But right.
And also,
if you hadn't raised your hand to us, right, we wouldn't have to have destroyed you. Except, of course, God commanded it, so we had to destroy you. But if you just do everything we say, we won't destroy you, right? Unless God commands us, of course. In which
and
case,
the absolute gall of these fucking cunts, these psycho monsters, to use every trick in the book against you, your mind and your heart, acting like, oh yes, we're the people of Israel, we're these ancient Hebrews that have survived this. No, Emperor Hadrian saw to them 2,000 years ago. They're gone. Like, you want to talk about Jewish genocide? Emperor Hadrian did that thoroughly 2,000 years ago. They're gone. The Jews we have today are a mishmash of different ethnic groups and origins that are all under this disgusting Zionist banner. Like again, I think the healthiest thing to happen to the Middle East and maybe the world is for Israel and the modern Jew Zionist power to just be scrubbed from existence entirely. I think, I wish that the United States would just completely cut ties with Israel and let nature take its course over there. I am sick to death of this, and I think that these evil, manipulative lies have to stop. And there's really only one way to stop it, that's cutting the source, excising the cancerous tumor out of the Middle East and getting rid of it.
Well, I can't support that personally, but I am fucking sick of being involved in this shit.
Me too.
I like, and look, there are a lot of people in America who are saying exactly this at the moment. I think it's one of the reasons why there was so much resistance to Trump even bombing the nuclear sites. Everyone I know in America is like, look, we have got very serious problems here. Can you stop the fucking foreign adventurism? Like, just, just for like a decade, bro. Can you just stop launching like wars? And the thing that really gets me is that this has been going on for so long that in the popular consciousness, the idea of like an actual army that defends the homeland has completely disappeared, right? A lot of people in Western countries now basically think that the purpose of an army is to go overseas and fight foreign wars rather than actually defend your people and defend your homeland.
Yeah.
Right? Look at what's happening in the UK, right? We don't have borders, right? But the borders of Ukraine are very, very, so much more important than the borders of England, or like, when Biden was in power, the borders of Ukraine, not the borders of Israel, right? Like, dude, what about your own fucking borders, right? This is unsustainable. 20, oh my god, how long have we been doing this for? Right? Like America, I mean, it never seems to end, right? They're always just sending armies halfway around the world to kick the shit out of like some country, right? You could at least make an argument in the UK, right? Like, trade flows and the Suez Canal and the remains of the British Empire. For the Americans, right? Like, you literally have an entire continent to yourself, right? You've got like more oil and gas.
Continent, by the way, that is entirely lush and rich with natural resources and great farmland and the best river system on the planet. Like, America doesn't need to go anywhere else but where we have right here.
Yep, exactly, right? Like, you guys could very easily be self-sustaining, but oh no, right? Like, and I think that this is actually a deliberate thing. I think that many of these men that would be resistant to many of the social changes that are currently happening in the US are deliberately sent overseas to die, because then they won't raise a fuss when, you move other populations in and start, destabilizing
and don't forget
everything.
that these anti-white globalist people, they think in eugenics. The more of us spirited, willing to fight and die people that they get killed, they sacrifice on the anti-white altar for Zionism, the less likely that is going to occur in future generations. They know that. So that's another part of this Judeo-Christian magic show, is to kill off the genetics of resistance to them in this meat grinder.
I mean, people in the chat are like, oh, we went over and took the resources, but we don't even do that anymore.
Yeah, we don't do that.
Look at Iraq. The Israelis wound up with all the oil, right? Like, we're not like, if it was something like, okay, we went over there and we took all of their shit, right, and shipped it back to the UK, right, and all the English are now more prosperous, I would at least be like, okay, I might, not be hugely behind that, but at least you could say it benefits like the people at the center of the empire. This is just retarded, right? You're just sending people halfway across the world to fight like wars that benefit like a very, very small elite.
And the regular people of those places hate the regular people here.
Yeah.
It's not good. It's not good in any way for anybody except these evil anti-white cunts at the top.
Yes. So I think the West, generally speaking, we need a halt of all of these foreign wars. I mean, look at what's happening with the West. The Russians are now outproducing us in arms like 5-1 at the moment. That's like the entire West, America and Europe. So either there's going to have to be a halt in military adventurism, or there is going to have to be a massive ramping up in military spending. I know which one I'm betting on. Buy Raytheon stocks. I just look. I just think that a pause in military adventurism is a good idea. Otherwise, a country that fights too many wars gets depleted, gets worn out. Right? Constant war is not good for a country. It not only burns treasure and blood, but it also burns morale. And then when you do really actually need to fight a war, everyone's tired of it. And no one can even remember the last time anyone fought a war for the American homeland or for the English homeland, right? Even the idea of doing that is, it might be a bit, what, you want to fight for England? It's a bit racist, bro. It's a bit racist, right? Like,
we did get another paid chat. It's just
okay.
a quick
chat. Sorry, I will stop ranting. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
No, it was good. Like, I wanted you here to talk about this. $10 from Jason Kuna, the No White Guilt guy. Thank you, brother. He says, where is it? He just says, keep rocking, Folk Tithe and Kip. Well, thank you, brother. I deeply appreciate that. Glad you're enjoying the stream. Speaking of enjoying the stream, I hope you guys enjoyed our TED Talk tonight. I just wanted to touch on this. I wanted to last week, of course, but it needs to be said, the things we said tonight. Keep your eye on the prize, our well-being, putting our folk and our countries first above everything else. And our leaders don't do that. They tell you that with platitudes and lies and gaslighting. They tell you that within the anti-white narrative of propaganda and Zionism and Judeo-Christianity and all this shit. So speak against that every time and everywhere it comes up around you. Speak the truth, and it will help. We aren't people who are rich and powerful oligarchs, but what we can do is do our best to empower people around us to make wiser decisions, and hopefully that resonance will carry us to a better tomorrow. Because remember, when eventually we do have elites that are willing to back us, they are going to need a social army, and sometimes a literal army, to help get things done to push that boulder up the hill. So equip yourselves with the right words, the right way to speak, and the right way to think on all of this stuff, and never let anybody tell you that all of these forever wars and Israel and Iran and all this stuff going on, being concerned about that is good for you. It's not. It's bad for us. So don't let them get away with it. That's all I have to say. So thank you guys for being here tonight. I hope that you all had a good time.
If I might just
yeah, go ahead.
I had something to say, and I think, oh yes, right. One of the very, very interesting things that has been developed is just how incredibly unpopular Israel is at the moment. I have never seen it this bad. I will grant you there are a fair amount of Jews in my shoes, Jews like Jewish space laser type people. But fundamentally, I would say that at the moment, particularly under Trump, despite his sort of love for Israel, trying to get the US into a war to assist Israel, like a proper war, covert operations, yes, ammunition transfers, yes, but like an actual war where Americans are on the ground and dying would be at the moment basically impossible unless Trump would be willing to burn his entire base to the ground. And this
I don't think that's going to happen either. I don't think that's on the horizon.
Yeah, I don't think it'll happen either. I don't think Trump would do that. He loves his MAGA base. He loves to be popular. One thing about
I think
Trump,
more than anything, he and the people around him and whoever is in the shadows backing him, they care about the U.S. economy and the petrodollar more. Yes. And I think that they know that kind of war, with the way things are going with BRICS and Russia and China, the way that India is on the rise, like I think they are not willing to gamble that detriment to the petrodollar and the U.S. economy with that kind of war. I don't think we're going to see that.
And I'd just like to point something out as well. There was a recent thing that Trump did where he came out and so Netanyahu is basically facing trial for bribery, right? This is the sort of other Israeli factions trying to remove him, and Trump came out and he said, like, look, this trial should be postponed or cancelled. And a lot of people were like, oh my God, look, that just proves, how much Trump is sucking Bibi's cock. But I think that there is another much more pragmatic reason, which is that Trump has put a lot of effort into the Abraham Accords and to trying to bring peace to the Middle East. And if Netanyahu gets replaced,
and then this mofo right here took a big old crap on all of that. And Trump hates being snubbed. He hates that.
Sure, but Bibi is a known quantity. If he is replaced, possibly by someone even more extreme than Netanyahu, I have heard that some of his cabinet are even more extreme than he is, and as if that were possible, it'll be a whole new cabinet to deal with. It'll be more sort of kvetching. It will set the entire project back ages. And I think Trump really does want to bring, peace to the Middle East, have the Abraham Accords. He got like a lot of kudos for that. And to do that, he has to resolve the Palestine issue, which means that he has to get the Israelis to stop bombing the crap out of Gaza, or, support the plan to basically deport all the Gazans to Europe. Although that's going to be a bit tricky because as far as certainly from the point of view of the UK, fuck off, we're full, number one. And the Palestinians are a notoriously annoying group to have in your country. Just ask the Jordanians when they took in a bunch of Palestinian refugees and then they overthrew the Jordanian government, right? So these people, the Palestinians are bred for war, right? I mean, they have been at war for 70 years? Just forever, right?
Basically forever, yeah.
These are not your ordinarily well socialized Westerners who obey traffic rules and stand in line politely. These people are fucking crazy, right? You're not. And I think I pointed this out before, particularly in terms of sending them to the UK. The Palestinians are still salty about the Balfour Declaration. Yeah. Right. So if you get a large number of them coming to the UK, what's to say they won't regard, the UK government or, the English as a whole as a legitimate target because of the Balfour Agreement, right? I just want less of this, right? Me honestly, too. It's so retarded. I just want less involvement in the Middle East and in foreign adventures. Could we please, for the love of God, focus on the very real problems in our own countries? I know the US has a bunch and the UK has more problems than it could handle, right?
And maybe exporting all the Muslims here. I'm just saying.
Well, yes. That counts as focusing on problems at home.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, just to tie it all into the original topic.
Yes.
Let's focus on that. Let's focus on us first above everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe in 20 years, 30 years, once everything's great, then you can pitch another foreign war, right? But at the moment, right, we is all out of fucks to give when it comes to other countries. And I think they're running into very, very serious problems with this because they're using this sort of malicious altruism thing where they're like, oh, what about the other countries? And everyone in the UK, and I think a lot of people in the US are just like, dude, we don't care anymore, right? You've used this argument for 50 years. Oh, what about this country? What about that country? What about, the Vietnamese, the Ukrainians, the Libyans? And everyone's just like, look, we're sick of it. We're sick of it. Just, so yeah, it's going to be
Speaking of things I'm sick of, I'm dying. I want to go put an ice pack on my neck and try not to die of a heat stroke. So we're going to wrap this up.
Okay.
But I hope you guys all have a wonderful weekend. Thank you for being here tonight. Speak the truth to all who have the ears to hear it. And Chris and I will be back Monday, Habiting TV and Discordant Dragons, you guys. And we'll have some familiar faces from the OGC with us on Monday night on Discordant Dragons. It'll be a good stream. So have a great weekend, everybody. Stay cool. Good night.
Good night, everyone.